Members of NCBA 2-1, you are welcome. Today's lecture by Nisimadan. And it is a continuation of where we stopped last time. Last time we looked at the role of contract. And I remember defining a contract as a binding agreement that exists between two or more parties to do or abstain from performing certain acts. And I told you that these parties can either be artificial or natural persons. And I said an artificial person can be a company contracting with another company, and a natural person can be like me and you if we enter into a legally binding agreement. And I told you a contract is a tit for tat, a bargain from which the two parties are expected to mutually benefit. So, and for the parties to enter into legally binding, there must be consensus of the mind, no force, no coercion, which in law we call consensus ad ideum. So after we looked at the different types of contracts, we looked at express contract, we looked at implied contract, we looked at void contract, we looked at voidable contract, we looked at specialty contract, which we also called the contract under seal, because I remember telling you that the specialty contract is a contract that must be written, sealed, and delivered. And I gave you an example of a partnership deed. We also looked at executed contract, executory contract. We looked at contract to prima fide. We looked at contracts of record. We looked at simple contracts. So we looked at the different types of contracts and their meanings. Then we also went ahead and looked at essential elements of a valid contract. And we started with offer. I told you that there cannot be a contract if there is no offer. Something must be offered. And I said offer means expression of willingness. And there can't be a contract if there is no offer. Then we looked at acceptance, manifestation by the offeree of his or her assent to the terms of the offer. Something must be offered and accepted, acceptance. Then we looked at consideration, and we said consideration means price paid by one party for the benefit of the other. And looked at, I summarized types of consideration: past, executory, and executed consideration. Then we looked at the regard of the subject matter, that for a contract to be valid, the subject matter must be legal. Then we looked at the form, that some contracts must be written in certain form for them to be valid. Form is another essential element of a valid contract. Then we also said another essential element of a valid contract is called the capacity of the parties, that the parties who have contracted must have capacity to contract, that a contract cannot be entered into by minors. Minors meaning people who are below the age of 18, cannot be entered into by lunatics, mad people, even cannot be entered into by people under the influence of alcohol and drugs. We also looked at free consent, that parties to the contract must have a free consent, free will, that their minds must meet. And I told you that the free consent in Latin is consensus ad ideum. Therefore, there should not be any type of force for the contract to be valid. Members, today we shall look at another topic called, I'm not following what is on the overview because you already have notes. We are just continuing. Those ones with the handouts, after I've discussed, can go back and revise. So today let us look at another topic. And today's topic is remedies for the breach of contracts. Remedies for the breach of contracts. Breach means violation. In case a party violates a contract, then another party has a right to petition courts of law. And it is the courts of law that awards remedies. Whenever there is a breach or violation of a contract, then the injured party, the party whose right has been violated can petition or can sue the other party, and the court gives remedies. So remedies, in short, before I even discuss the first remedy, remedies in short means court orders. And these orders are given to an injured or aggrieved party that his rights have been violated and the rights of a contract. If I've entered into a contract with you and you fail to fulfill the terms, then I can petition courts of law, and the court is the one that gives remedies. So whenever you see remedies for the breach of a contract, it means court orders given by courts of law. Therefore, let us look at some of these court orders, and I will not follow the order. Order doesn't matter. When I mention a remedy, then later you will go back and you cross-check whether you have that remedy in your notes. Let us start with damages. Damages as if the first remedy for the breach of the contract. And remember I told you, in a row you'd rather give 5 points or 4, but use the right vocabulary. So what is a damage? Damage means a monetary compensation allowed or given to the injured party for the loss suffered by him as a result of the contract. The key word as far as damages is concerned is monetary compensation. Even though later we shall see that some compensation may not be monetary, but largely damages refers to monetary compensation to the injured party. If I have entered into a contract with you and you have breached it, you have violated it, now me, the petitioner, because we have the petitioner and the defendant, plaintiff and the respondent, plaintiff, defendant, petitioner against the respondent. Me, the petitioner, I'm the injured party. That's why I will be using injured party. So remedies are given to the injured party for the loss he has accrued due to the actions of the defendant party. And damages the motive behind award of damages is not punishment but compensation. That's why we call the monetary compensation. By awarding damages, the court aims to put the injured party into a position in which he would have been had there been performance and not breach. Therefore, the court is not intending to punish anyone, but the court wants to make sure that the other party who has made a loss due to the actions of another party who has failed to fulfill the terms of the contract is compensated. As a general rule, compensation must be commensurate or equal to the injury or loss sustained. If you have lost 100 millions, then the court should also award you with 100 millions. And if you don't prove to court that there was a loss as a result of the breach of contract, then the court will not award damages. So, before I even go to another